Welcome back, everybody. It's Jack Graham here with another video. Thank you all for taking a few minutes to listen. And of course, your comments are always welcome. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of comments on this video. You know, I'm not really a clickbait person, but I couldn't resist this title. Bill Evans, nothing more than background music. I'm going to explain that. And go into a little bit of detail where that came from. I had some other titles in mind that were even a bit more bizarre, but I figured I'd stick with this. Was enough, hopefully, to get you to listen to this. Anyhow, thank you for listening. If you do like what you hear, please hit the like button. It helps, and the subscribe button. I think we're a little bit under 1,200 subscribers, and I thank you all. It's an honor. I don't monetize this. I'm not in this for anything but to just share some thoughts and just maybe some stories from the many years around the jazz scene. Anyhow, you know, I was listening to a record the other day that came out. I'm going to talk about that came out on a record store day, and you know, it got me listening again to a lot of Bill Evans recently. And so I pulled this record out that, you know, that came out a few years ago. This is the reissue that was done on the Verve series here by Acoustic Sounds. And Trio 65, Bill Evans with Larry Bunker and Chuck Israels. One of my favorite recordings is on here, How My Heart Sings. What a great tune. And I believe, if I remember right, that was written by, let me just double check so I don't give you wrong information, because I'm going to talk about bad information here in a minute, and I'm going to try not to hurt people's feelings here. Yeah, it was, that's one of my favorite tunes. It was done by the Mel Lewis Thad Jones Band, too. A great arrangement on that. But How My Heart Sings is on here. It's the first cut on, I believe, on side B. Anyhow, Verve V6 8613, Trio 65. So while I was listening to this, I remembered a long time ago, and I was just a kid, but I remember a very controversial review of this record in Downbeat magazine. This is the issue of Downbeat from July 15th, 1965. So 65, 75, 85, 95, 05, 15, 25. It's about 49 years old. 49 years old. And I remember this review, how controversial it was. It was written by a guy named John Wilson, who, I don't know if he was one of the major contributors to Downbeat, who had some great writers, Morgenstern, Ira Glitter, just some great writers in this magazine. And it was the Bible. And this magazine, their record reviews, I have to tell you, and I can attest to this, I was part of this, could make or break the success of a record. There was no social media. There was no internet, obviously. The only way to hear about a record when it came out, no YouTube, was through, you know, Downbeat magazine or one of the newspapers or somewhere that reviewed the record. And Downbeat was considered the Bible. And they would give 1 to 5 stars on reviews. 1 was poor, 2 is fair, 3 is just good, 4 is very good, 5 is excellent. Not rarely 5. I didn't see too many 5-star reviews in there. Well, a lot of 4s. John Coltrane's Baha'i got 4 stars in here. Ray Brown, Milt Jackson on Verve got 4.5 stars. And some other, you know, what else would we know in here? In this issue, Dizzy Gillespie, Jambo Carib got 3 stars. Benny Golson, Stockholm Soldier, and got 3 stars. Coleman Hawkins, Lester Young, great record. I got 5 stars. Rarely do you see a 5-star review. Anyhow, so I did dig this out, and I'm going to read it to you. And I'm going to read this verbatim. I guess I could copy this and post it here below, but I think I'll just read it to you. This is by John Wilson. It's a short review. It's just from here to here. Bill Evans, Trio 65. The more I hear of Evans, the more I become convinced that the propagation of the Evans mystique must be one of the major con jobs in recent years. I'm not making this up, folks. This is what's here. Evans' performances, and this one is fairly representative, are clean and polished, but they neither seize nor hold the attention, not mine anyhow. There is self-effacing quality about Evans' playing that makes the whole thing slip away from a listener, so that steady listening has to be a deliberate, directed effort. Not wrong. But what's wrong with that? This is great jazz. It's more like superior background music. Music that forms a pleasant atmospheric setting, but does not distract. There's nothing wrong with this sort of music, and Evans does it very well. But it scarcely seems to be the thing that jazz cults are based on. Still, Evans has managed to do it. These are simply tuned performances with good support from Israel's and rather noisy interjections from Bunker. Man, 3 stars. A good record. I have to tell you, folks, in my humble opinion, this is probably a 4.5, probably a 5-star record. And what's wrong with having to sit and listen to something? If this was written today, I might get it with people with short attention spans. And what I mean by short attention spans, a lot of you have probably tuned out of this video already. Attention spans every year are going lower and lower. But I guess where I'm going with this is, that review, this record did fairly well. There was a Trio 64 to Trio 65. It did fairly well. I don't know how many copies were sold. But for someone, man, I just don't know. I'd like to know what this guy's background was. 3 stars? To make comments like that about the genius of Evans? And folks, there are so many great players, and I'm not just beating the drum for Bill Evans. I mean, there are so many great players. I mean, ranging from Art Tatum to Cecil Taylor. They're great players. There's some mediocre players as well, and I guarantee you they're going to get weeded out, and have gotten weeded out, and have not become the mainstays of of jazz. Today there are some great pianists, some young great pianists. Man, Emmett Cohen. I mean, what great! I mean, these guys are playing great. Just some great players. Anyhow, yeah, it really. I thought about that, and I'm glad I had this. Background music, I just don't get it. And here on YouTube, there are a lot of people reviewing records. And of course, there's more availability to reviews these days. There's, probably, I don't know, there's probably maybe a couple dozen YouTubers here that I listen to that talk about new records and old records. and most of them, are pretty knowledgeable. There are some who are new to jazz, who are learning about jazz, that are walking around like they know it all. I don't know it all. I learned from these guys. I learned from people who just started listening to jazz 2 years ago that find things about things that I don't know about. We've got to keep learning. But, I think when we do our reviews, and, maybe I'm as guilty as anybody else, and I'll try to be better about it. But, I want everybody to know that they're just nothing more than an opinion. I stay away from YouTube streams for people who I really like, for example, Rachel's Ghost. So entertaining, great people, funny, and knowledgeable. But it's about subjects most of the time that I don't really know anything about, and I really can't add anything to. I listen, and I try to pick some things up, but I'm not a Beatles guy. These folks that are on there to talk about Beatles and rock, they know a lot more than I know, and they're great at it, and it's good. But maybe not the impact that Downbeat had in a day. But when we're reviewing new records, let's try to talk about, if we can, try to talk about things we know, maybe, and maybe some things we discovered that we didn't know about. There's some new things that I'm listening to that I hadn't heard before, that I picked up from some other people. Man, to say that Bill Evans is background music, I don't get that. Check this record out, folks, and maybe go back and listen to that 3-paragraph description that I read to you. Pretty scary. Sure, it didn't make or break Bill Evans' career, but these records that he did, 64, 65, man, they were just awesome. Speaking of Bill Evans, just a couple other things while I'm here. Record Store Day. The reissue of Everybody Digs Bill Evans came out, and I picked it up on the Contemporary series, CR00751. Under $40 for this record. Great record. I went home and pulled out my OJC from, I believe, 1983, and compared the two. And I have to tell you that the OJC was pretty good, but the new Contemporary, I think, had more of a soundstage to it. And kudos to Contemporary for bringing this out. Sam Jones and Philly Joe Jones make up the rest of the rhythm section, done in '59. And of course, Kevin I Never Sleep Gray did the mastering on this. Really a great find, if you can still find them around. This is a mono. Is it a mono? I believe it is. But the OJC that I have is a stereo. And perhaps that's why the soundstage sounded a bit different. But at any rate, they're both good, both great records. I actually think Evans' stuff on Prestige was a bit better than it was on Verve. The many records he did on Prestige, if you can find them reissued or OGs, I think you'd be happy to find them. They do get a bit pricey. And then the other record, there's a two set Consecration 1 and 2. I haven't opened 1 yet, but I did open 2, and I did listen to. Why this is an interesting record, it's that last trio he had with LaBarbera and Mark Johnson. Mark Johnson on bass plays so good on here. This is done on the Timeless label. It's a Japanese label, thus the Japanese Obi. This was done less than a month before Bill Evans passed away in 1980, September 15th, I believe. This was recorded, I think the last recording date on this was September 7th, so it would have been a week, 10 days or so before he passed. The last cut on side B is a tune called My Romance. Great tune. And it was the last thing Bill ever recorded. So historically, these are good. If they're still around on record store day, leftovers, you know, find them and it'll add to your collection. Anyhow, that's just my little rant on record reviews and such. But man, I think for Downbeat to publish something like that, when Bill, at the time, Bill Evans was, if he wasn't winning all the readers' poll and writers' polls, he was damn close to it. This was after Kinda Blue. This was after many other recordings that he did. And, you know, to say that, I just don't get it. But, you know, it's just an example of be careful what you say. I guess if you want to sell magazines and be controversial, he sure stood up a hornet's nest enough to make me remember. 49 years ago, a review of Trio 65. Anyhow, thank you all for watching. Until next time, this is Jack Graham, and please again like, subscribe, the whole bit, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.